Cheers! People of the world, hello and welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 156. Oh me. Oh my. Our guest today is so incredibly impressive. Imagine, just for a second, that you are sitting in a room and there is a whole slew of people, or a virtual room, it's fine, whatever Zoom/physical room you want to imagine. And in this room is a company that has paid you to, in the course of 5 days, build a website, write blogs for the entire year, write an email campaign for the entire year, and you're going day by day and you're just knocking out these tasks so they can ask you about your website. Your website, I want my website to have a banana that jumps around on it. You have to be able to do that. I want my blogs, you know what, my blog isn't, I want it to pop, the graphics to pop. You have to answer all of those questions. This is what our guest, Elizabeth, if you want to go with the Italian, it would be Pampalone. If you want to go with the English, it would be Pampalone. Our guest today does precisely that. Not only does she do all these things, she also finds herself in front of groups of people espousing wisdom, which I know from our past experience with guests means that she has had a very interesting life, because it's not just your average bear that decides to do these things. It is an incredible group of people. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Elizabeth. Put your hands together.
Hello.
Yes. Winning. So much Elizabeth, so much winning. All right, let's get right to it. Do you want to start before you were born and your family, or do you want to start with where you were born and that whole thing?
Well, I'll start with me. And I was born in Cincinnati a long time ago, and Cincinnati, Ohio. And I grew up there with my two parents. I have a sister, and then I had another sister, and then another brother and another sister. So oldest of 5.
Okay.
And I grew up, I was homeschooled. And I didn't ever go to a public school in elementary or high school. I didn't go to a public institution until I was in college.
Boom. We're going to stop right there. So homeschooling is something that has become not ubiquitous, but a lot of people in my life are now homeschooled, and they keep coming in. One of them is Lillian Ojukwu, who is the founder of Duchess Rideshare, which is basically think of Uber, but women drivers, women passengers, launching in Las Vegas right now, expanding nationwide shortly. So she's brilliant, and credits a fair amount of that to this incredible homeschooling experience. So if you were to judge your homeschooling experience, where would you put it?
I would definitely say A+.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
My mom was not a teacher by trade. She was not an academic, really. Just a regular person, played sports in high school, went to college for a few years. And when she had kids, her and my dad decided that they didn't want to send us to just any public school. We lived kind of out in the country a little bit. And so they were like, we're going to try this for a year. So kindergarten comes around. Okay, we're at first grade. I think I can do first grade. Kindergarten wasn't so bad. Another year goes around. My mom basically said that every year until I was in high school. And then she was like, well, whatever. I mean, I've done it this long. I might as well just keep going. And all of my siblings after me, all of us were homeschooled. And we all have we're all pretty smart. So I attribute a lot to it.
Wow. And so your father, I assume, made decent money. Was she home all the time, obviously, doing the homeschooling? How did that work out?
No, he was, he's a civil servant. He worked at the post office he's worked there for 35 years.
Okay.
So not a ton of money.
Okay. So you guys managed, using those big brains of yours, to work within the financial constraints of him being a post office worker and your mom at home homeschooling.
Yes.
Okay, so lap of luxury. Okay, so you had multiple yachts.
Mm-hmm. All the light up shoes we could wear.
That's right. So a lot of that. Okay. Okay. So I think how many kids again?
5.
So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do the math, right? On how that would work out financially. And so is a part of you striving to, or are you? I shouldn't say are you. Is financial independence a big deal for you?
Absolutely. And, it wasn't that we had it bad, because I believe that that's what made all of us go on to do the things we're doing. Especially me, like going on and saying, I'm going to make something of nothing. That's how I started my business. So I really think that growing up that way was, you had to be inventive. You had to come up with stuff. You had to figure it out. There wasn't somebody there going, okay, let me buy this for you. Let me solve your problem with this money or that, fancy thing. It was just figure it out. And I think that's what made my business so successful in the last few years, and that I've been doing this, is that I had to figure it out, and so I really attribute a lot to that. I also attribute that when you're in school, a lot of my friends, they were like at a job for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day. They had to go there, do what they were told, fill in these requirements, and then they got to go home. And then at home, they had more work to do. And I think that some children have it worse than some adults, that they have to go through school this way. Whereas when I went through school, it was, hey, I know you don't like, science, but we're going to have to do it. We have to go through the science subjects, But if you like history, do as much as you want. Go the extra mile, take the extra credit, read the extra books. And it wasn't this constraint of, you have to do so much that there's no time for you to explore other things. It was, let's do the requirements, but also the stuff you like. Go above and beyond and go for it. There was that opportunity.
What you just described, as a former teacher and someone who has a lot of scar tissue around education, as a teacher, you're supposed to do something called scaffold, right? Scaffold, because you've got 30 students in the room, and you have to take the student that is the furthest behind and the most advanced, and somehow magically, through the powers of your teaching ability, teach the lesson, and then not spend all of your time with these kids that are way behind because they are the behavior issues. Do you see what I'm saying? So we put our teachers in these impossible situations, and ask them to do miracles. And some do. Some are just phenomenal, and credit to them. It's an incredibly hard job. But what I think technology is allowing us to do is to get to something similar to homeschooling in a more academic environment, or in a more typical public school environment, because now we can actually have that student who's at calculus level in 5th grade do calculus on a computer program, right, and just pass the test and just keep going. But then you have the homogeneousness of the actual classroom, where he has to be like in the math class. I think that's what's going to eventually break. There's so much pressure from the students themselves to actually be in the level that they want to be in, that I think it's going to start to more closely resemble what you had. But I mean, honestly, how do you beat that? I mean, it's incredible. Now, there's like a social argument of like, there's certain people that you weren't able to interact with, and a lot of homeschool kids will go and have like recess, or they'll do certain like community activities or sign them up for sports.
Yeah, we did a lot of that for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was groups we would visit. There was, we would go on field trips just like anybody else. We visited the symphony, like we did all the things, but it was with other homeschoolers who were looking for the same thing, but it wasn't this super structured thing. And I think what you were describing, like the scaffold, is, I call it the one-room schoolhouse. Like, you kind of have these different abilities all throughout. You got 8th graders and like 3rd graders. You got to teach them all at the same time. And I find that happens a lot when I speak to audiences, entrepreneurs. You got people who know everything about marketing, and they're like, yes, this is my thing, and I get what you're saying. And then you got people down here who are like, I just started my business yesterday. What am I supposed to have? Social what? And so talking to people, and it is a skill that I've developed, that I'm proud of developed, but it's definitely something that you have to work towards and work on, because being able to teach somebody of great ability and someone of lesser ability and make them all feel like they got something out of what you just said is really, really, really awesome. And also to see their reactions when they do.
Well, that's absolutely true. It's also true that if you didn't have to do that, it would be better. Because the people who have to sit there and wade through you're going to tell me about metadata? Really? You're going to tell me what a meta title is? Oh, fantastic. I mean, just turn it off, And then you get to the advanced stuff, and they're like, oh, good, I got something out of it. But they still have to wade through the nonsense. And technology is allowing us to have no nonsense. You go right to the point, which is the best. Shout out to Duchess Rideshare in chat, writing homeschool is where the heart is. Lovey face. So good stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So it doesn't surprise me in the least that you have sort of developed a homeschool environment. That's what you've done. You've made. So I'll put it to you this way: there will always be a glut of teachers in the United States until the public education system changes. And the reason there will be a glut of teachers is that most people don't go and spend 8 hours in a plumbing place when they're kids. They don't spend 8 hours in an attorney's office. They spend 8 hours in a teacher's office. And that's what we do to all of our children. We say, oh, okay, make your role model for the future a teacher, right? That's the profession you're going to be most able to mimic because that's what you see. And so there will always be a glut of teachers because sociologically, everybody has seen that growing up. And it's interesting to me that you have essentially translated your experience as a child into these rooms of people because you're very comfortable in that sort of homeschool environment. Because it feels like you're still homeschooling, doesn't it? But now you're the teacher and they're the students?
Yeah, and I think that, I feel like when people are in a situation, when they're in a group or when they're in a large, thing, or they're getting a lot of information thrown at them, they can't focus. And so when I created my pillars of marketing, which are the 5 things that I do, then I really was able to say, just work on the brand. Just the brand. Just take the brand and work on that and finish it. And it's kind of like what my mom used to do with us. She'd be like, okay, you've got math to do, you've got science, you've got history, you've got all these things to do, right? Just finish one thing, accomplish something. Sit down, put your mind to it, get in the mode, get in the groove of it, and do it, but finish it. Don't get up and walk away and 5 minutes later come back and do something else. And, people say, well, I got to walk away from it and I got to take a break. And no, I find that if you actually let your brain go on a subject or a topic, it can get so much more done for you, and your brain is way more powerful than you probably realize because you've been multitasking and you've been cutting it off every time it gets a good thought. You're like, oh, gotta do something else, gotta change gears, gotta switch to my email, gotta switch to my social, and you're doing all these things. So I find that if you actually let your brain go on something, and it's something that's, branding or website or whatever, people can get so much more done. And once you accomplish something, then you get the endorphin hit of, I did it. It's done. And now I don't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah, there might be 10 other things in front of you, but that's done and you can move on.
This is all I'm saying is that one of the reasons I'm so happy that we've gone through this format of starting from the very beginning is because, Elizabeth, you, like many of the other guests on the show, we find these somewhat obvious lines between current profession and upbringing. There's something there. Is your mom still with us? Is she?
Yes. She's actually an entrepreneur. That was another thing that when I was a kid, she had several businesses, small businesses that she ran. She was teaching basket weaving. She was doing a couple MLM businesses. And now she has a business helping people with their budgets. And it was like a natural thing for me to go, I'll just make a job. If I can't find a job, if I'm overqualified, underqualified, which is what happened when I basically, lost everything and had to start over, I was in this position where no one would hire me because I was in the middle. I wasn't in the right spot for whatever the job was. And so I'll just make something. It didn't dawn on me that I couldn't just make a job.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so all of the things in your childhood lead up to you sitting in front of a group of people and just delivering. Again, I think it's worth repeating to the listeners that for Elizabeth to have the ability to knock out in a room website, blogs for 12 months, and email marketing for 12 months, is there something else on that list I'm forgetting?
We do a brand in a day, which is all the branding stuff. We write an ebook, that's day 1. We build an entire website, that's day 2, build it from scratch. Day 3 is 12 months of social media, which is up to 365 posts for the day. And then 12 to 24 blog posts, and then 1 year social or email marketing campaigns. So yeah. There's a lot.
So look at the skill set. It's coding, it's design, it's graphics, it's a mastery of the English language and marketing in general. I mean, hoofta. And we talked about Google Ads and paid, and Elizabeth before the show, she said, yeah, we don't do that. I'm going to stay in my lane. And I said, no, stay in your 5 lanes. Because you're doing about 5 lanes. It's really impressive. Okay. So you're homeschooled. You're going to activities with other homeschoolers. You've taken this sort of homeschool vibe and translated it into this future thing that you're doing now. What's the name of your company again?
Absolute Marketing.
Absolute Marketing. Okay. Okay. So when did the homeschooling stop? In high school or like in college, like all the way through?
Yeah, I graduated at 17, and I worked for a year, and at a library.
Okay.
And I basically saved up money to pay for my college because my parents didn't have fancy college funds or anything. They had 5 kids. They really couldn't afford that. So I paid for my college with the exception of 1 or 2 quarters that my parents, graciously like scraped together all their pennies and like paid for because I couldn't manage it. It was like one of those times. So I pretty much paid for it all myself. I only have an associate's degree. That's it.
You know
I went
what?
for 2 years and like I'm out. I'm doing my thing.
I love that. One of my best friends in the world, his name is Han-Soo Kim, born in Wisconsin. His parents are from Korea, South Korea. And he has, it's funny on his resume, he's got this little Harvard line, but it's just a class, I want to say he didn't finish because his speaker company was taking off. He was flying to Japan and coming back and doing all of this. And he's like, what am I doing? Like, why am I... You know what I mean? So it's so funny to me how it would be easy to be insecure about that and not want to tell people and like guard that and that whole thing. But I think it's almost a badge of pride. You know what I mean? Like the Zuckerbergs of the world, like where they just like take off and it's like, you know what? I didn't even have to do the stupid thing. Not to mention, let's all be honest about most college experiences. I mean, are you really, really learning this incredible skill set that's gonna, you know what I mean, like better than an entrepreneur experience would? I mean, come on.
Well, my sister's there now. She's 14 years younger than me. So she's in college right now. She's in for business and marketing, which is what I did, right? And I teach her things. She's actually going to be working with me this year. And she'll go into these classes and she'll come out and she'll be like, Elizabeth, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. I have learned more from you than I do in this class. And she's actually sitting there thinking to herself, why am I paying, $30,000 a year, 15 grand to be here and like live here? She's like, why am I doing this if I'm learning this more stuff from you? And I said, it's because when they teach, like you said, there are more teachers because that's what people, that's what they've seen. That's what their role model is. And they don't have the real world experience. Not that teaching is a bad thing, but they don't have the same experience that I do when I go out and teach, when I go out and do seminars and webinars and classes and summits, because I do this every single day. They're looking at it in a theoretical way. So I think it's really interesting. The stuff she's told me, the stories she's told me, she said that she's actually taken a lot of the stuff that I've taught her and told her professors, I'm going to do it this way because this is the real way. And hopefully that will be okay and be required, fill the requirement. And a lot of them are like, wow, that's really advanced. And she's just like, so it's just been interesting to hear that.
It demonstrates how broken the current system is. It reminds me of how in the future, people are going to look back on this time and say, you used to die in cars. Like you used to like go from point A to point B and for coffee and die. Like, what prehistoric, savage, barbaric, horrifying world did you live in, Grandma? And you just go, no, it's normal. It's what it was. Like, are you telling me you had to sit there in class, like, while someone who didn't know what they were doing? Because what's going to happen is the absolute best of the best of the best of the brightest, best teachers will rise to the top. And we're all just going to digest their content. A good example is there are 3... unbelievable chess players. There's Magnus Carlsen, who's the world champion. There's GM Nakamura, who's like, I don't know what he's ranked, but he's just mind-bogglingly good at chess. And then there's GM Narditsky. And on chess.com, Nakamura is ranked number 1 for like Blitz, which is 3-minute chess, and then Narditsky's like 5. But even though Magnus Carlsen is the absolute best chess, like hands down world champion, when you watch his videos, he's like, well, if, A3, B7, bishop D2, H5, C1, that line doesn't work, and then B3, F4, you're like, what?
Yeah.
You're like, huh? It's impossible. It is like impossible to follow this guy unless you're an incredibly high-ranked chess player to even understand the moves, like, why would you put your queen there? It doesn't make sense. But Naroditsky, who's a grandmaster, who's incredible, he's this amazing teacher. Amazing. And he has just catapulted on YouTube in the last few months, and he's making a ton of money. Good for him. Because he'll play a game and then really break it down, every single move. And so that's where education's going. So I think you actually have an incredible ability, and I wonder what your YouTube future would bring. Does that make sense? Like, I wonder if that could be really strong for you in the future, where you sit down and maybe make this a public thing, right? Where you sit down and you do a live stream. It's 8 hours where you're sitting down with these people. They agree to live stream it or they agree to video it. And then you kind of guide people through the whole process. Is that ever something you would consider doing, or have you done?
I do a version of this I have a membership, and it's just a monthly fee. And every month we have a special discounted 4-hour session. So it's not as much as my 8 hours. It's not a one-on-one. It's definitely a group session, but it's not very many people that usually attend. So it's a small group, and it's just 4 hours of, I go through the stuff I normally go through in an 8-hour session at the beginning. So everybody's on board. Everybody knows what they're going to be doing. Everybody has an idea. I ask questions just like I would in a regular session. And then I make them work. Like, I make them sit there and work on Zoom with me, so that they can actually see that I'm here with them. I'm working with them. If they have a question, ask it. If I have a question about what they're doing, I'm going to ask it. So it's this like open communication, and that's really what the 8 hours brings. So I kind of do that a little bit. And I walk through everything that I do. If you listen to any of the podcasts I've done, I did 120 last year. If you listen to any podcast I've done, you'll hear my formulas. You'll hear what I do exactly, literally. I don't hide any of it. And I think you're right that when you freely share some of this stuff, it doesn't mean that everyone's going to pick it up and be like, I can do this too. But there are going to be those people that take it and run with it. And I love to see that. So,
are you live streaming?
I don't do a lot of that. I do a little bit. I mean, I do some like webinar type live streams, but I don't do like a whole 8-hour live stream.
I can see it. I can just see it. For some reason, it's calling to me. I feel like I have to tell you that live streaming in your future is just a thing. I can't explain it better than that. I just think you would kill it on a live stream if you like worked with someone live and people could chat and they're asking questions like, why did you do this? Why did you choose that? People could weigh in real time. They could be like, oh, that blue color is ridiculous. I'd be like, nah, I would never forget you, chat. And then people will troll you in chat. They'll just say stupid stuff. And you get like, they're trolling you, whatever. But it would be really neat to have a community around the process. So it's almost like then the vision that I have is you sitting down with somebody as a sort of an experiment. Like, they're not paying you. You're just doing it just to kind of whatever. And then you start, and then you go through what you normally do, but then chat just kind of is like, oh, that's a cool idea, and they're chiming in. And
I challenge you. You find me the client, and I'll do a bono.
Oh, okay. So I just got to find, I found him. It's me.
Sounds good. I'm up for this. I seriously am. You let me know. We'll pick a day, and your audience can watch the whole thing, like just.
We could do something. I like that. Maybe we would do like blogs or something. Because I own a digital advertising agency and I have a team of people that do this stuff. So it's different. But we could come up with something. I like that idea a lot. Sit down and do a live stream where
maybe you could pick a person from the audience that needs something.
Okay.
We could be altruistic about it.
I wonder who. maybe Lillian Ojukwu with her blogs for a year might be an interesting take. I think that might be really, 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 really neat. Okay. The wheels are turning for sure. Okay. So back to your homeschool. We definitely have seen a parallel there. That's really neat. The associate's degree is, it's awesome that you like jettisoned out of that. You're obviously successful in what you do. So let's talk about what would you be, 20, 21? Like, what was the jump there when... Like, what did you go do instead of school?
I got married. And I was working in a new job as a software developer. The job lasted 8 months. The marriage lasted 3.
Oof.
He left. Oof. He filed for divorce on me. Ugh. I was totally like caught unawares. I was devastated. It was the only thing I ever wanted for my life was to be married, have kids, like do the thing my family did. That role model was there for me, and I wanted to do the same thing.
Yep.
And my parents had told me when I went for my degree, they said they weren't sure about the whole web thing because it was still new then. And they were like, as long as you can make your own money, because you never know what's going to happen. Your husband could die. You could not find one. Like there's just random things that could happen. We want you to be prepared. And they wanted me to be a nurse. And I was like, no. Nursing is not for me. Yep. And I said, this will make me enough money. If I go for this degree, I'll be fine. So when all this happened, I had to quit my job. I couldn't mentally function. My parents ended up moving across the country. Oof. I went with them because I literally had nothing left. I started hostessing, and I was with my parents for about a year, and I felt like little Alice in the big house. Big Alice in the little house. So I was like Alice, and she grows, she eats the thing, and she grows out the sides and the doors and windows. Yeah. And I felt like I was just constrained, and I was like, I need to do something that I can do for me to get myself out of this situation and be an adult again, because I didn't feel like an adult.
Right.
And Mom said to me, why don't you just pick 2 things you like and make a job?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I like old people and computers. And I started my first company at 21, doing computer repair for basically people over 50.
You did? Okay. All right. Okay. You homeschool. You go to the associate's degree deal. You get married. And then there's always something like this. There's always, like in every entrepreneur story, I would argue every human story, there's this moment of catastrophe. So you navigate the catastrophe, you move halfway across the country with your parents, insert Alice in Wonderland metaphor, and you start a company doing computer repair? I thought you were a programmer. Why are you repairing computers?
Well, the reason I got into the computer repair was because in order to get the clients, I knew I had to find the clients. And this demographic, well, where were they? There's 1 billion senior centers in Florida. And so I thought, I'll just go to a senior center. I'll teach a class about computers, about how they work and how to use, Word and how to use Facebook and random things like that older people want to know about. And they had all these desktop computers and they had computer labs, but people didn't have laptops they could just bring in with them. And they'd say, well, my printer isn't working. Can you help me with that? I'd say, sure, I charge X dollars per hour, and it just became this thing. I didn't even think I had a business until I started meeting other business people through networking. And I was like, wait, there's other people out there that make money by doing stuff like this? Mm-hmm. And I was marketing myself. And so I was using all these ideas that I had of building a brand in a day, building a website in a day, all that stuff. I was just using it for myself. It was kind of like hiding it under a little bit of a bushel because I didn't think it was useful to anybody except me. And then I started meeting other business owners and I was like, well, now I got to build an agency because this is my love. I love marketing. I've always loved marketing. And that's what I went to school for, was to program websites and to learn the ins and outs of everything. And so I was like, well, now I can actually take what I love, make it a real business. My second husband, quit his job, came to work with me, and he did all the computer repair and I built the marketing agency. And when he went back into the field of construction, after we sold the computer repair business,
nice,
I just kept going with the agency, and that's where we are today.
Huh. Okay. So we have 2 minutes, or less than 2 minutes. So I want to give you a chance to pitch to the folks and let them know, where they can hire you, where they should go. Pitch them.
Yes, you can go to getabsolutemarketing.com. There is a free pro toolkit there. All the tools I use, you can get those for free. There's links and tons of discounts. You can also check out our membership, which I would really encourage people to do. There's a 7-day free trial. All of my videos are there, all of my ebooks. I've done tons of interviews. Everything is there. And you also have access to me. I answer a lot of questions in that group as well. So hopefully you'll join us. And then also you can find all of our services, our coaching, our power days, and also our full marketing system, which is the 5 days.
I love it.
GetAbsoluteMarketing.com.
There it is. There it is. Ding. Like the teeth, that little bing you get on the, yeah, that's right. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, obviously Elizabeth is an absolute force of nature. You should reach out to her. You should chat with her. I obviously own Send It Rising Internet Marketing, SEO, WordPress, pay-per-click, Google Ads, all that sort of stuff. You know me. So reach out to both of us for all of your marketing needs. So ladies and gentlemen, hopefully we'll have Elizabeth back on the show for round 2. We may even do this live thing we were chatting about. I have someone in mind, but we'll stay in touch on that. So that is the show for today, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.